this is we have a lot of things converging in the next 3 or 4 years that I think we, as the body, need to keep our eye on, particularly Jerusalem and the state of Israel. I don't know how I don't know how, the lid has been kept on all this time with all the volatility surrounding the nation of Israel, but we know that the Lord has kept that lid on that thing. But those are just some of the things I wanted to share with you this morning, that the times and the seasons, when we look in the heavens and we see the sun and the moon and the stars, a comet coming very brightly, possibly the Hanukkah candle being lit in the heavens, that we need to be walking in holiness. We need to be about the Lord's business, because He's purifying His bride, and we're to be without spot or blemish. So I encourage you, brothers and sisters, to keep your eyes looking up, keep your attention focused on Israel, the city of Jerusalem, and what's coming shortly with these blood moons and solar eclipses and the comets and the predictions of Judah ben Samuel. So I appreciate your attention.
All right, we're going to take some questions, but only from people out here. You see, we're not going to have our speakers turn their back on. So, have you ever tried to herd cats? Sometimes herding cats is not easy. You folks over there, you're cats, and you need to be sitting over here if you want to ask any questions, okay? So, everybody out there. Yes, sir.
When are the 4 blood moons?
I'm sorry?
When are the 4 blood moons in 2014?
Yeah, the first one is April 15th of 14. The second one, that's Passover, by the way. The second one is October 8th of 14, Feast of Tabernacles. The third one is April 4th of 15. And the fourth one is September 28th of 15. By the way, I also should mention, I failed to mention, a 7-year sabbatical cycle. Well, a sabbatical cycle is 7 years. It's called a Shemitah. And at the end of that 7-year sabbatical cycle, all debts are canceled. It's interesting, after 2001, the attacks on the trade towers, exactly 7 years later, 2008, the bottom dropped out on the economy, and America and the world was in crisis, if you recall. 7 years from 08 is 15, particularly September of 15. I think I think it might be September 23rd of 2015 that the Shemitah ends, and we're going to see the same kind of chaos and economical crises that we saw in 2008. The same thing's going to occur in 15. So that's another convergence that's going to take place very soon. Yes, sir.
So, Judah ben Samuel, do you know the date he was born, by any chance?
I don't know the date he was born, but he died in 1217. Yeah, he died in 1217. Sorry about, I might have it in here. I'll look, and if I have it, I'll let you know.
I'm getting a terrific video at the back of your head.
In other words, there's some exciting times coming if we're in the body. Yes?
Do the blood moons actually look dark red, or they're...
Yes, they do. And I Googled this, and I wanted to find out, and it's because of all the debris in the solar system and its position between the sun and the moon. There's actually a reddish hue, a reddish glow that's given off. Obviously it's not literally red, but it looks red. And there's a great picture on the internet above the Temple Mount, over the Dome of the Rock, the Golden Dome, the mosque there. There's a great picture of the blood red moon there in Israel. I'm not sure when it was. Might have been maybe 10 years ago or less. Yes?
Under this kind of borderlines
astrology, and aren't we forbidden under New Testament to follow?
This absolutely is not astrology. This is astronomy. These blood moons were discovered by a gentleman named Mark Biltz, a Jewish pastor, and he looked up on the NASA website when the next tetrad, when the next blood moons, 4 consecutive, falling on Jewish feast days would occur. And so all this data that I've given you is scientific from NASA. It absolutely is not astrology, and you're right. We're not to look at our horoscope in the newspaper. This is astronomy, and that's scientific. Yes?
Do you have some type of workbook or something like that with this data in it?
I just have some of my, where I've been in the web. I would encourage you to look up Mark Biltz on the internet. Google his name, Biltz, and you'll find this. Okay? I would say go right to him. And I had an opportunity to hear him last July. A friend of mine, Terry Crockett, and myself, went out to Colorado Springs. You may know of...
Ask Lee to move that way a little bit, he's in
Who is
the
it?
way.
L.A. Marsuli, yeah, but I'm talking about J.R. Church and Gary Stearman, the name of their...
Prophecy in the News.
Prophecy in the News, yeah. There was a prophecy conference in Colorado Springs this past July, and Mark Biltz was there, and he talked about these things. Extremely powerful, and they are signs for us. They're signs. And these, there's trouble coming to Israel. We know that. Well, with these blood moons coming on 4 consecutive feast days, we can take that to the bank. So, and it's an exciting time, and with the fact that they want final negotiation status over with between the Palestinians and the Israelis by April of 14, I mean, that's, things are gonna kick off soon, yes.
When Jesus in the Bible talks about the sun shall be turned into darkness and the moon into blood, are you sure that it's exactly correlating with these phenomena that you're saying here that NASA has shown in different things?
Well, I don't know if it's exact, brother, but I know when it says turned into darkness, that's a solar eclipse. Turned into blood, that's a blood moon, that's a lunar eclipse. So
I wasn't always sure of the sun being turned into darkness. Was it something talking about a solar eclipse?
well, that could be, the sun has been turned into darkness in the past with volcanic eruptions and things going on where the sun could be blotted out. So, you know, I don't know exactly if that's what Jesus was referring to in terms of 14 and 15. But I tell you what, if I was a betting man, I'd favor it. I'd favor it personally. That what Joel's talking about, what Jesus talked about in the Gospels, is what we're about to see, yes.
Also, David, don't you think that is a direct prophecy of there shall be, in the end times, there should be signs in the sun, the moon, and the stars?
Well, yeah, yes, I believe that.
Those are the signs.
That's what I believe, but I've been wrong before.
But
That's
it
my
is what it
personal
says.
opinion.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It is what it says.
Well, my
He
wonder
said
was, are the signs that will be in the heavens, are they signs that are calculable by astronomical mathematics and calculations, or are they something beyond there?
I think there'll be visible signs like the
Yes,
stars.
I would think that.
That the masses of people are gonna be able to see.
And combine that with, as in the days of Sodom, so shall it be before the coming of the Son of Man, and this president and his exporting of the sin of homosexuality throughout the world. The Russians told him, get out of here with that stuff. And some of the African nations told him, get out of here with some of that stuff. So, as Brother Ernie talks about this man of sin, who he is a man of sin, exporting homosexuality, these signs, these lunar solar eclipses, Judah ben Samuel. Now, what he predicted, this rabbi, this German rabbi, is not scripture. Okay, I want to make that clear. It's not scripture. But you know, the Lord can do that, in my opinion. He can give someone information. So I'm excited. Yeah.
In the extra-biblical prophecy realm, there's a Saint Hildebrand back in the 12th century
Okay.
that predicted the comet Onysko.
Mm.
I don't have the quote, but I did see it in print, and I saw it on television through a prophet.
Well, you also have the Book of Enoch, which is not in the scriptures, but many preeminent theologians look at the Book of Enoch and say that it lines up with the Word. So, you know, I'm looking. I'm looking. Yes.
Is that ISIS?
ISON.
ISON?
I-
When is
IS
that coming?
I'm sorry.
When will that come?
November 28th. It's on its approach now, but it will make its most spectacular display on this November 28th. Yeah. And by the way, this is my opinion. Others may think differently. But I believe the Lord's going to take the bride in the rapture during the fall feasts, the Feast of Tabernacles, Feast of Trumpets. And that's just my personal opinion. It's the seventh feast. You know, he came, Passover was the first feast. Tabernacles, Feast of Trumpets is the seventh feast. He's the beginning and the end. So that's just my personal opinion. I respect those who may disagree with that. But every fall, I'm waiting to hear that trumpet sound. I mean, I literally am waiting to hear it sound. But anyway, yes.
You're talking about the Feast of Tabernacles. Some people believe that Jesus was born on the Feast of Tabernacles because he's now in a house of flesh or a tent of flesh.
Yeah. Yeah, he was probably conceived in December and born, yes, in the fall feast. That's what I believe. Maybe Pat. Yes.
Don't you think the church globally, here in the United States, again, will have to go through a period of persecution now before the actual rapture occurs, so that there will be that
Oh, yeah.
harvesting?
Yeah, and it is happening. I mean, they're
It's not
They're
like
killing
it's
Christians
easy.
in Syria. They're crucifying Coptic Christians in
Right.
Egypt.
Right.
What's happening in our military here with,
Right.
being declared, evangelical Christians being declared, on a par with Hamas and Al-Qaeda. I mean, absolutely. And this guy in the White House, this is the guy that's...
The persecution of the church right now is worse than it's ever been. Right now, Obama now has decided that he has instructed the IRS to make all churches become 501c3 corporations. This is his, in other words, you have to understand what that means. That means that you place government is God. Government is God. And it's not going to happen. The unregistered New Testament church, we're not going there. And we'd rather be dead than red.
Whatever happened to the period of separation of church and state, if they're going to try to make all churches 501c3?
You may have noticed that they always do the opposite of what they say. Okay?
I know, but that's what they claimed for years, that there was
Yeah.
a separation.
Yeah,
And
I
now they
know
want to
that.
take them over.
That separation, what's Article 52 of the Constitution of the Soviet Union? But anyhow, there is a separation. It's from the Bible. Okay? And the state is there to guarantee our freedom of religion. That's why it's there, folks. Not to guarantee it from religion, but freedom of religion. Yes, Kuba.
You got Boko Haram in Nigeria. They're doing terrible things to the body over in Nigeria. Unbelievable amount of persecution and death, blowing up churches and going into services, slaughtering Christians during worship. I believe the great persecution is coming to America, coming soon to neighborhood near you.
In the past few years, over 6 million, right now, over 6 million Muslims had converted to Christianity there in Iran. And this is one of the things you will not hear on NBC, ABC, or CBS, the mainstream media. You know, that is, again, that's totally communist controlled. And you need to really say it, say communist. The people have been so media trained and beaten down, they are afraid to stand up and say what they mean today.
Yes.
Do you think it's possible that the U.S. is the mystery Babylon was talked about?
I'll let Pastor answer that question.
Okay, Mystery Babylon has 3 different aspects to it. It's religious, political, and economic. You saw, what you saw take place in 9/11 was right out of Revelation chapter 17. It's right there. I mean, if you had, or chapter 18, I'm sorry, Revelation chapter 18. If you saw that, now I happened to be watching the news when that took place. And the first thing that came to my mind is this is Revelation chapter 18 right here. And what are we talking about? Well,
Economic.
it tells you if you were to read it, and if we had the time, I would just go ahead and read it here. But he's telling you that in those 3 aspects, first of all, you find, in New York City, you find the World Trade Towers. What did they represent? The world economics. You find the United Nations. What did they represent? The world political view, right. And you find housed within the United Nations building was the World Council of Religion, right in there. So you had all 3 of them right there in New York City. And so what happened? Well, he tells you, if you read Revelation 18, that in 1 hour, I watched from within a few seconds of the first plane hitting. By the way, wasn't it interesting that the Israeli camera crew was set up on the top of a building, watching that, and also another camera crew? Does it look like they expected that? Wasn't it interesting that the very day before 9/11, Bob Dole, Gary Hart, and others were on C-SPAN talking about, we suspect that there could be an attack upon the United States by commercial aircraft. And it was, and I'm listening to that, and after that, it was, they were giving the okay. They were saying all's clear. This was a signal to go ahead. Anyhow, within 1 hour, he tells you in Revelation 18, in an hour, the city is burned, she's gone. And that's how long, exactly how long it took for those buildings to come down. 1 hour from the time the first plane hit. 1 hour. What does it say? He tells you that the merchants on the sea and the ships in the sea, whoa, well, here. Why don't you turn to Revelation chapter 8. And he's telling you, woe is us, because the great city, the great mother, okay. And what happened? In that 1 hour, when that took place, the very first thing the Navy, the Coast Guard and the Navy did is they made every single ship in the harbor, I mean hundreds of them, drop anchor right where they were. And these ships were filled with produce. And what does he tell you, Dave?
Yeah. Chapter 18, verse 9.
Yeah.
And the kings of the earth who have committed fornication and lived deliciously with her shall bewail her and lament for her when they shall see the smoke of her burning, standing afar off for the fear of her torment, saying, Alas, alas, that great Babylon, that mighty city, for in 1 hour is thy judgment come. And the merchants of the earth shall weep and mourn over her, for no man buyeth their merchandise any more.
All right, so he goes on if you
Yeah.
read it, but we don't have that much time.
Right.
So what happened? Those ships had, they were sitting out there for some of them for 10 days or more.
Yep.
All of the produce rotted. Exactly what you saw in that book right there on a small scale. Now, God shows you types and shadows throughout the entire Bible. He shows you something he's doing on a small scale, and he does it on a larger scale, than on a major.
Two more scriptures.
Yes.
For in 1 hour so great riches has come to naught, and every shipmaster and all the company in ships and sailors and as many as trade by sea stood afar off and cried when they saw the smoke of her burning, saying, what city is like unto this great city?
Okay, so you're seeing that is taking place. There's so much of the Bible you're seeing coming down. If we have time later on, anybody has any questions about the rapture, the tribulation, the millennial kingdom, I'll be glad to answer that. I'm going to be preaching this coming, and if we have time today, I'm going to be preaching in Paducah, Kentucky on has America elected the Antichrist? I'm not saying Obama is the Antichrist, but I can tell you this. Every single characteristic and every attribute in the Bible of the Antichrist, you will find an abomination, even his name. So that's interesting. But with that, we're going to have
Let me just say one more thing, Pastor. If you don't know, if you haven't heard of Jonathan Cahn and the Harbinger, you're talking about 9/11 and what happened. Read that book and find out about what he has to say.
Okay, thanks. We're going to have to move on now, and the next is Sarah Fowler. She is the rose amongst this table of thorns.